Sharp fantasized about fame and fortune. But at age 18, his hopes and dreams were suddenly shattered. In August of 1989, he was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, a rare bone cancer. By that time, it had spread to his lungs. Doctors gave him 6 months to live.
My odds were very, very slim. And so, besides being very, very scared, I was angry. I was mad. And so, the doctors that had seen me and hadn't found and basically ignored.
You can't, when the doctor says, hey, your kid's got cancer and he may live 6 months, that takes it all out of you. And it took it all out of us. Still does. Every time we think about it. Because when your kid lays in that bed and he says, Dad, am I going to die? And you have a hard time answering that question.
For them to tell us that Kevin had cancer, well, my first feeling as a parent was guilt. Why didn't I keep pursuing this? Why did it take so long?
Kevin was devastated. At the same time, he was determined to fight his cancer. His only hope for survival was to undergo intensive chemotherapy and radiation treatment. Elaine Sharp kept the family business going, while her husband Glenn kept a 24-hour vigil at the hospital, never leaving their son's side.
The hospital put a bed in there for me so that I could stay there, so there were times I spent days and nights just to be there. And when he had chemo and was going through all of the vomiting and the sickness and the pain everywhere, out to the tips of your fingers, that hurts, everything hurts. I just couldn't leave. I don't know what kind of help I was, but I couldn't leave.
Kevin endured months of cancer treatments, and still his condition worsened. He vividly remembers the night he came close to death.
I had an experience one night where the night was really rough, and I actually had voices, 2 different voices. One telling me your time's up, give up, quit. And I didn't want to. And I believe it was tension between those 2 sides of whether I should live or die. And it happened 3 times. And the 3rd time, we said a prayer. And after that prayer, I had such a peace come over my body. And I heard another voice that said, you're going to be okay. And ever since that day, I didn't necessarily know if I was going to live. I knew I was going to be okay, but I was not afraid of death.
By his 19th birthday, Kevin's chances for survival were slim. His family decided to contact the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which grants wishes to critically ill children. To everyone's surprise, Kevin's dying wish was to meet producer and composer David Foster. The 14-time Grammy winner had produced songs for such legendary artists as Celine Dion, Natalie Cole, and Kenny Rogers. He also composed music for countless movies. Kevin says Foster's music lifted his spirits.
A lot of people think my wish was to get a record deal or to sing, and that was not the case. I wanted to meet a man that from early in my life to that point that was so crucial, listening to music. Music to me is as important as oxygen. And I knew that there was something about my love for music that was very similar to his. And so I wanted to meet a man and thank him for making a daily difference in my life.
In 1990, Kevin was granted his wish. He gathered up enough strength to visit David Foster at his studio in Malibu, California.
Call from the Make-A-Wish Foundation came, and And so I said yes, and he came down with his family. You know, here was this very sick 18-year-old boy, head, you know, bald head from the chemo and looking very gaunt. And we hung in the studio, and they stayed for a couple of days, and it was just really cool. And we became friends. I was a little apprehensive, but 10 minutes into my hang-out with Kevin, and all that was forgotten, you know. But I remember asking him if he was going to die that day. Why, I don't know, but he said, yeah, he says there's probably a 50% chance I'm going to die, you know.
I could understand his kind of mixed emotions, but he went through with it, and from the very first instant meeting him, I felt at home and welcomed and comfortable around him. It was an incredible day.
The composer and cancer patient became instant friends. Inspired by his visit with David, music became Kevin's lifeline. He listened to the radio day and night. Music took his mind off his pain and mental anguish.
We would talk on the phone. I would call him out of the blue, or he would call me out of the blue. And he never really indicated how tough it was. But we would talk, and he would discuss my music with me. And he used to say that my music really comforted him.
There were so many nights I would lay awake in the hospital and just focus and dream about being able to sing and perform again and play football, and imagining there being hair on my head again, and it kept me going.
Kevin says music kept him alive. He envisioned the ballads he planned on performing if he survived this deadly disease. After fighting cancer for 2 years, the aspiring singer's lifelong wish finally came true. Kevin Sharp finally beat the odds. In 1991, he went into remission. The tumors in his left leg and lungs were gone. He had survived the impossible, but the disease had left physical and emotional scars. Kevin says he had prepared to die for so long that he didn't know how to live again.
I went through some of the worst bits of depression. I think more of a horrible time after going to remission and realizing I've got to get back into life. And a life that I was told for the longest time was gone.
We had a year or more of time of him, you know, what I call a living death. That scared me far more than the cancer experience. Would he ever function again? Would he be able to take care of himself? Would he be able to go on?
The 2 years of continuous chemotherapy and countless surgeries had taken their toll on Kevin's body. The bones in his left leg were brittle. He now walked with a limp, and his hair never fully grew back.
I think, you know, when he first started out, of course, that bugged him, I'm sure, because his hair didn't come back much, just on the sides, and it was very thin. And so he decided to shave his head, and it developed into his image.